Welcome back. This is part 2 of A Young Person's Guide to Pulsar Synthesis. We are going to continue looking at parameters and automation with my plugin Pulsar. Okay, so now we're going to have some formant shifting. This is where the real micro sound composition, spectral morphology comes into play. So it's different than other forms of spectral morphology that go through a that break down and then reassemble a signal. This is a more German aesthetic, Stockhausen-esque composite, like we're adding all these things together to make a signal. It's additive synthesis. Let me just go ahead and check on my recording here. Yep, okay, good, we're still recording. So let's go ahead and hear changing formants. Let me pull them up here as well. So there are 2 formants in each pulsar train. I am only adjusting one, and we can still get quite a bit of shift out of it, but it's obviously cool to do both. All right, so we can give some motion that way in a pretty effective way of doing so. Now, this is where I think it really starts to sound for this kind of texture like what I would want to do with the spread. Right now, it sounds very punchy, sounds like a Spitfire tractor engine or something to me. I've heard some people say a motorcycle, which can be desirable, but for a texture, I don't always want that. And if you want it to be like raindrops, it shouldn't be so rhythmic. So when we start getting this spread, I imagine raindrops that fall, and every time they hit a particular surface, it has a chance of generating some ricochet frequency, some derivation, some randomly generated frequency. But most of the time it will stay on the frequency that's expected. So what happens here is the spread increases, right? So you'll see the colors like this start to spread out a little bit more than what their default values are. That does not mean that more random numbers will be introduced. For more random numbers to be introduced, the random value of said parameter needs to also go up. So we can control the range from which the random value will be selected, and then the probability that it will be selected. Okay, so what happens is the randomness increases over time on all of these, and I think what I will do, format random, is maybe increase that a little bit. I think I would like it to be a little bit more aggressive. I see. So here, it's just going to, in the next section, when we play with the pan positioning being randomized, I will have this just be steady. Okay. All right, so now, what's funny is that it is a steady amount of randomness which produces unsteady results, if anything. So the randomness, it's a 31% chance, approximately 35, give or take. I don't think you need to be too precise with these, that the pulsaret will actually be produced or it will miss. Oh, I'm sorry, that would be intermittence. This is whether or not it will play the specified formant frequency or if it will select from the range. Okay, here we're going to do the same thing, but with pan. All right, I'm increasing for our next one the format random percentage. And in this one, we are increasing our send levels to an effects loop of a phaser, just the built-in phaser. I could do flanger or doubler, but I'm doing a phaser from Ableton. Let's hear that. Yeah, I like that. Okay, now this next part we are going to send to the frequency delay from Valhalla, which is a delay, obviously, and then a frequency shift with each feedback iteration from the delay line. That is actually more complex than I would think, but here it is if you're curious what it looks like. Let's go ahead and listen to this here. Always got to play with the delay time. Okay, so that's just one kind of raindrop-esque texture that I'd like to do. Sometimes it is better to keep it a little bit more rhythmic without doing the trigger patterns or not doing them so fast. In fact, it might be kind of fun to try this with a lower fundamental frequency. Let's try that. Let's have it go down into the definitively rhythmic region of pitch. Pitch is rhythm, rhythm is pitch. I'll fight you about it. Trust me. Okay, got that. And then this is going to come down to 2. Okay, so I have a glide time set as well to about 1.5 seconds. This works really well with longer glide times, especially in live performance, because it lets you kind of scoop through some of these things. It really shows the transformation that's happening. Okay, let's try it out. Ooh, okay, so I like that. Now that the fundamental is lower, though, the width, you have to understand wave periods and wavelengths a little bit, but like a low fundamental means the whole period of the pulsaret, both the duties of the pulsar, both the duty cycle of the pulsaret and the period of silence after it. It's pretty long if it's a low fundamental. If it's 1 hertz, it's 1 second, right? Well, then if a formant is at 1,000 hertz and the width is at 50%, that's a lot of cycles of 1,000 hertz. And so it starts to sound like 1,000 hertz just beeping, right? Whereas if the fundamental frequency was 100, well, you might only get 2 cycles of 1,000 hertz because that's all that will fit in completeness. So in this case, I might need to adjust the width to make it not so bright and brilliant, even though it sounds cool. You know, that might be an interesting way to do it. Like have it just where you can type in exactly how, instead of a percentage, how many cycles you want. That might be useful. Okay, so I'm just adjusting the widths here. I think those are okay. We could probably smush them a little bit more though. Okay. Okay, so there's some fun to be had with that. I invite you to try this out in both ways. Try it out live, do some MIDI mapping, and try it out with some other plugins too. I highly recommend it with Reflections, which is also Pulsar and Reflections are available free at Recluse-Audio.com. I will help you with installs. I will give you personal lessons on how to use it. I would love to help you out and get more people using these plugins so I can figure out what kind of improvements I can make and what kind of plugin I should make next. Thank you for watching. If you've been following along, if you ever have any questions about these plugins or have an idea you want me to explore, let me know in the comments or shoot me a DM. I'd love to hear back from you. So remember, you can see me on RyanDevinsAndHisMusic.com, or excuse me, on YouTube. Ryan Devins and His Music on TikTok, Instagram, and Recluse-Audio on YouTube, TikTok, and Instagram. Love the TikToks. That's usually where I make the most content. Thank you for watching. All right. Have a good day.